All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel for this Takeaway Tuesday as we recap all the fun and adventures of NFL Week 7. Let's get into it. Takeaway Tuesday following our Week 7 NFL schedule. I made predictions for you last Thursday leading into the Thursday night games. Today we're going to go over my predictions versus the actual results. This was definitely not my best week when it comes to making predictions. There's a lot of crazy shifts in the league that I didn't see coming. But we're going to talk about all of those. I have Yahoo Sports up so we can talk about some stats. There's probably also, you're going to hear some stuff going on. I got my kid in here. I got NASA space flight on. His Starship is prepping for dress rehearsal today. So I got a lot of stuff going on, trying to multitask as much as I possibly can. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Week 7 NFL football, and that's exactly what we are going to do right now. Let's start with that Thursday Jaguars at Saints game. I predicted the Jags. The Jags did actually pull this one out, 31-24. Not too shabby. Derek Carr sitting 33 for 55 with a touchdown interception, 301 passing yards. Trevor Lawrence at 20 for 29, a touchdown, no interceptions, and 204 pass yards. ETN had 2 rushing touchdowns in 14 attempts, and he had 53 rush yards. Alvin Kamara, he's been doing a little bit different stuff since he's gotten back from injury, but 62 rush yards on 72 attempts, no touchdowns. Kamara was also their leading receiver as well, and Kirk, leading receiver for the Jags. This game kind of went how I kind of thought it would. It was tighter earlier for sure than I would have kind of expected, but altogether, the Saints still just don't look as good as the Saints should look. So, even the Jags have been kind of hit or miss. But Trevor Lawrence, I think, is finally kind of coming into his own. If they can get some good receiver movement and stuff happening, I think we're gonna have good stuff. If anybody tells you to play Calvin Ridley on your fantasy team, don't. Complete waste of time. Yahoo Fantasy this week was like, play Ridley. So I played Ridley, and he got 1 point. Awful. Absolute hot garbage. But that's our highlights there for Jags Saints. Again, I picked the Jags, and they won. So 1-0, baby. If I can figure out how to do it over here, you'll probably see. Let me see if I get my hand in the camera frame. That was nuts. You'll see some like 1-0 thing happening here because I'm up 1. Give it time. It's not gonna hang out here forever. As a matter of fact, it's gonna bust into that next game. We go to Raiders at Bears, and I would have bet you almost anything that with Devontae having a frustrating week with the Raiders saying that they weren't going to trade him, and all of this mumbo jumbo, that the Raiders were going to steamroll on the Bears, and boy oh boy was that wrong. Raiders 12, Bears 30, final score. I called Raiders, didn't happen. So this is where this thing happens right here, and it goes 1-1. Now let's talk about a little bit of the performance. I don't even know how to pronounce the Bears' backup quarterback's name. Bagnet? Begant? Bagnet? I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter because he's not going to be... I mean, he won a game, so he might as well be their starting quarterback. But he's not going to be around forever. We all know that. Justin Fields is going to come back in. But this kid, not a bad day. 21 for 29, 162 passing yards and a touchdown. No interceptions out of the backup. Dig it. But this was a battle of the backups. Jimmy Garoppolo's out over in Vegas, too, so Hoyer played. And he went 17 for 32, 129 yards and an interception. So just not as good as you'd want. The running game was all below 100 yards for both Foreman and Jacobs, so not the best run game either. And honestly, Foreman was also the leading receiver with 3 receptions, a touchdown, and 31 yards for the Bears. Jacoby Myers was the leading for the receiving for the Raiders, and it just wasn't enough to get it done. Man, the Bears are still obviously going to bring up the bottom, I think, of the NFC North if with how the Vikings looked, which we'll talk about later. But just the Bears had a nice little glimpse of life here. So the Bears win. Definitely lost on that prediction for sure. No shame there. Browns at Colts. I called Browns. I thought this game was going to be a blowout, but it was a nail biter all the way down to the end with a 39-38 final score. Not too shabby, especially out of the Colts going up against that amazing Browns defense that stifled the 49ers last week. P.J. Walker, 178 yards. He went 15 for 32 with an interception. I saw a couple nifty dimes out of that man. Just, it's amazing that he has essentially the same amount of wins as their $250 million quarterback. So, sad day for Browns fans everywhere. But P.J. Walker is keeping this team alive in the absence of Deshaun Watson. Gardner Minshew, 305 yards, 15 for 23, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Not a bad day altogether. Jonathan Taylor started to heat up a little bit more. Ford led the rushing endeavor for the Browns this week over Kareem Hunt. But Kareem still had, I have him on my fantasy team, he still had a decent amount of fantasy points. He still played pretty damn good for what it is. Browns over the Colts, and that, I called that one too, so we're going to go... Which side am I on? Who would know? We're gonna go 2-1. 2-1. Again, don't get used to it. Bills at Patriots. I lose this one for the 2-2 record to hit. But I would have thought anything that the Bills were gonna steamroll these guys. The Patriots seem disheveled. They seem out of touch. Belichick seems kind of outmoded at this point with rumors from Rob Kraft about possibly parting ways with him into the offseason. But an absolutely rare New England win this year, and in decent fashion, too. Again, over a decent Bills team. Josh Allen obviously showed up, 265 yards. He went 27 for 41, 2 touchdowns and an interception. That's pretty normal for trigger-happy Josh Allen. And Mac Jones, 272. He went 25 for 30 with two touchdowns, no interceptions. He showed up. He showed up to play this week. He's hearing the rumors. He's hearing the hype. He's hearing the doubters. He's hearing the New England fans turn on him, some of the most loyal fans on the planet. They're so used to winning, but they're over this losing thing. So now he's hearing the hype. He's hearing the buzz, and he's going to try to show up and get this job done. The running game and the passing game, like when it comes to lead rushers, lead receivers, they were both pretty subpar. Almost the most receiving yards by a single receiver is 63, and the most running yards by a running back is 31. Josh Allen was actually the lead rusher for the Bills. I didn't see it coming. I was pretty positive that the Patriots were going to keep to their losing ways in the quest for Caleb game that everybody's apparently playing heading towards next year's draft. But shocker. Like I said, I think the buzz finally got to Mac Jones, and it was time to clean it up. And they pull out a clutch win against a division team. That's good news for them, and we'll see how they develop as time goes by. Is this just a one and done for Mac Jones? That is the pressing question for sure. Commanders at Giants. I lost this one too, because who in their right mind would think that this wounded Giants team was going to beat the Commanders? That's nuts. 14-7 final score, Giants over Commanders. Again, I lost that one, so 2-3 sitting right now. Tyrod Taylor. Let's talk Tyrod just for a second here. Tyrod Taylor needs to be their starting quarterback. Tyrod Taylor has now gotten them within one possession of beating a pretty awesome Bills team and has now beaten the Commanders. I mean, again, like the Commanders, Sam Howell's at quarterback for them right now, so it's not like the most impressive outing of all time. But Tyrod is bringing the Giants into games. Saquon still had 77 yards on the day, so it's not the worst outing for Saquon. I still think Saquon carries that team on his back almost at all times. Darren Waller actually showed up to play some football this week. He's been quiet up until this week. But Tyrod going 18 for 29 with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. That man needs to be named the starting quarterback until further notice, or at least, let him carry this team all the way to the end, and then they can talk draft capital or whatever they want to do. But Tyrod seems to be their guy, in my opinion. Sam Howell went 22 for 42 with an interception, no touchdowns. Not the worst outing. Again, I don't really know much about Howell, but I like what the kid does. He seems to be putting up good pass yards. Obviously, Scary Terry, 90 yards on 6 receptions, no touchdowns. They have weapons. I thought they had more than enough to shut down this battered Giants team, but turns out I was wrong on that one. Giants beat the Commanders. Falcons Bucks. I got this one right to go 3-3 on the weekend so far. It was a close one. 16-13 final, Falcons over Bucks. Ritter, 19 for 25, 250 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Baker on the other side for 275 yards. He went 27 for 42 with a touchdown and an interception. I like Baker. I like how he's been looking down in Tampa. I think it's going to take a little bit of adjustment. I think they still have a lot of the key weapons that Tom Brady enjoyed down there, especially in Mike Evans. How long can they kind of hang before they start feeling uncomfortable with not having that winning way of Tom Brady at all times? I guess time will tell. Ritter also had 38 rush yards on 6 attempts and a touchdown. Drake London, in the last couple weeks, he's finally trying to look like a wide receiver, or at least a wide receiver one. So 54 yards on 6 receptions, still no touchdowns. Mike Evans was 6 receptions, 82 yards and a touchdown. So pretty good outing for both of those. That game was tight. It was close. It came down to the last second. All good stuff out of that. Falcons over the Bucks. Lions at Ravens. I got absolutely dusted on this projection. I thought it was going to kind of be backwards. The Ravens, up until this point, to me, kind of felt hit or miss. Some weeks they looked dominant. Other weekends they looked like just hot garbage. And the Lions have remained pretty consistent up until this point. They got dusted. They got absolutely destroyed. 38-6 final score in Baltimore. Let's get into the stats here just a little bit. Goff 33 for 53 with no touchdowns and interception and 280 yards. Lamar Jackson had himself a day, 21 for 27, 357 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2 of them to Mark Andrews. Amon-Ra still showed up, kind of as I thought he would, for the Lions with 13 receptions and 102 yards. Gibbs actually ran today, or for that game. I was worried that he was going to be out. I saw he was questionable leading in. 68 rush yards. Gus Edwards with 64. Both of them having a touchdown on the day. Yeah, it's not what you're looking for out of the Lions right now. When they actually look like they have a decently structured team, they're finally kind of trekking in the right direction, especially in a wounded NFC North. Obviously, my division. Just not. They look really good, and this was not a representation, I think, of how good their team will be coming down the pipe. I think they still are going to win our division, and I think they're going to build off of this. I bet next week looks a lot different than this current week does. On to the next one is Broncos, Packers. Again, I went to that game. I had an absolute blast. The game didn't go the way I wanted it to. We didn't pick up the dub. There's a lot of learning, I think, to be done still by this extremely young Packers offense. I saw things in that game that I really liked, and I saw things in that game that I didn't like. And one of the things I don't like is that the Packers seem very, very hesitant to play offense in the first half. They kind of trek around. They're tiptoeing. They're trying to make small moves kind of through this process. I think if we had played offense in the first 2 quarters the way we played it in the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter, I think the outcome of that game looks different. But the Broncos show up. The Broncos hold us off. Again, it was a great time. My first Packers game that I've been to a bunch of Broncos games. My first, for my own team. It was an amazing game. Met some awesome people. Had a good time. Let's get into the stats here. Jordan Love, 21 for 31, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Those interceptions are plaguing him. It's absolutely killing him. He had us all fooled, I think, those first 2 weeks where he threw 7 touchdowns and no interceptions, and now is on the flip side, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We're just not looking as good. He's not looking consistent. He's looking nervous, and we need to kind of get out of that. A.J. Dillon led our rushing campaign with 61 yards on 15 attempts, no touchdowns. He did get into the end zone at one point, but it was brought back by a penalty. Romeo Dobbs led our receiving campaign at 2 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. It was a beautiful touchdown that everybody was debating whether or not Pat Surtain had picked it off. I've seen a lot of different sports outlets saying that play probably should have been reviewed. From where I sat, what I was seeing on the Jumbotron looked like a touchdown to me. I'm not entirely sure how the rule falls out for that, but what was being told to us in the stadium was that the offensive player had priority in that call if they couldn't determine exactly who had the ball at what specific time. Either way, I don't know that it makes a ton of difference. That touchdown obviously got us on the board, but in the long run, we kind of fall down. Russ didn't look too bad, man. Russ going 20 for 29, 194 yards and a touchdown. Their run game was ran by Williams, 82 yards on 15 attempts. I still like him, but I like McLaughlin, I think, a little bit better. But, they kind of have that 1-2 tandem going. That Green Bay has kind of stereotypically ran where you have your elusive, your fast running back, and then you try to have your power back. The difference is both of these guys have speed, which is awesome. Dillon's not our fastest running back. Jones is. So it kind of teeter-totters. We kind of have a yin to a yang. They just have that speed at all times. I like McLaughlin, and I think he's going to look really, really good as time goes by. Give that kid time. Cortland Sutton, he showed up, man. I hesitate a lot with Cortland, but 6 receptions, 76 yards, and a touchdown. It could be all for nothing. He looks great. The Broncos, though, as we near this deadline this week for the trades, I've heard Judy and Cortland are on the docket to be traded. So let's see kind of how that plays out. Hopefully this was not a nifty audition to go to another team. Cortland, I enjoy seeing on the team. And, for me, if you're going to trade somebody, you trade whoever's going to buy you the most cap space. And I'm not entirely sure which one of those two it is. But with Russ's contract being this gigantic stalactite of money over that team, I would try to open up some cap space wherever I possibly could. Broncos over Packers. Sad day, but win or lose, go Pack, go. Let's try to get them next week. All right, on to the next one. Steelers at Rams. I lose this one too. I would have thought anything that those Rams were going to decimate the Steelers, who look also inconsistent this year, but I was dead wrong. Rams over Steelers over Rams 24-17. Pickett went 17 for 25, 230 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Stafford, 14 for 29 with 231 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Again, just like I thought there was going to be some inconsistencies here, but there wasn't. Najee looked decent. Henderson still looked decent for the Rams. To me, it feels like a pretty even-keeled game. When you're talking about the Steelers division, I still think it almost falls into the Ravens' hands with how dominant the Ravens can look. Again, not as consistent as you probably want out of such a big build of a team. The Steelers, I kind of felt were going to be mid this year, but they're rolling. They're looking pretty good. They beat the Ravens. They're looking better than I think most people kind of expected, and I'm fine with that. Steelers looked good. Rams did not show up to win this week. Steelers over Rams 24-17. On to the Cardinals at the Seahawks. 10-20 final score. Cardinals lost to those Seahawks. I still like what the Seahawks got going on. I probably talked about it a little bit in the predictions show, but when you have Metcalf and Lockett, it's an amazing receiver core. Walker, I love what he's doing at running back. I have him on both of my fantasy teams. Absolutely love what that man does. Dobbs I mean, like he's doing all right. 19 for 33 with 146 yards. It's not the worst outing, but that team just looks beat up, looks beat down. Marquise Brown can't do it all himself. The defense isn't holding up all the time. And with all the talk about Murray possibly being traded or just not re-signed when his contract comes due, I think that they're in for some big changes too. The Seahawks, though, I kind of like what they're doing right now, and the Niners don't look to be doing exactly what we thought they would be doing early on in the year. So let's see kind of how that breaks down. Seahawks over Cardinals. I got that one correct as well. Chiefs Chargers. This one, so final score 17-31. Chiefs over Chargers. This is kind of what I expected. The Chargers are fine. They play some really consistent ball, but they make a lot of key mistakes. Patrick Mahomes had 424 pass yards, 32 for 42, 4 touchdowns and an interception. Patty always looks like an MVP candidate. Travis Kelce had almost 200 yards, finished out at 179 yards on 12 receptions with a touchdown. That team is starting to look just like Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to lose pieces, but when you have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, a duo that I don't think you'll ever see get separated, it's going to be, they're always going to be in it. They're always going to have the possibility, as long as their defense can hold up and stop other good scoring teams from getting the edge on the Chiefs. The Chiefs look good. The Chiefs are still rolling. They beat those Chargers 31-17. Herbert didn't look that bad either, to be honest. Like, he threw 2 interceptions. That's obviously bad, but 17 for 30 and a touchdown with 260 passing yards. Not the worst outing ever, for sure. You obviously just need to show up overtime to beat the Chiefs at least 88% of the time. Sometimes they have misses. But when Patrick Mahomes goes 430 yards in the air on you, good luck. It's going to be a tough one. Be a tough day for those guys. We'll see how they can hold up next week, or if this is just kind of that kill shot. The AFC West is starting to look exactly how it's looked for the last handful of years. The Chiefs are going to separate themselves as an obvious contender, and the rest of those 3 teams are going to look kind of like scrubs at this point, with little glimpses of positivity, but altogether you can tell that division is run. It runs through the Red Kingdom of Kansas City for sure. On to the next one. It was the Sunday night game, Dolphins at Eagles. I said it in the predictions video. You can go back and watch it. If you haven't, go for it. At this point, I'm giving you the results anyway. But I said in that video that I was going to take the safe ground and take the Eagles, and that I wanted the Dolphins to pull this one out, but I just didn't think it would happen. Sure enough, Eagles over Dolphins 31-17. It just didn't, from what I did see of that game, it just didn't feel like good, clean Miami Dolphins football like it had been. Tua going 23 of 32 with 216 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Hurts 23 of 31 with 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Obviously, A.J. Brown is rolling in Philly. Tyreek is still running over that defense wherever he can. He had 11 receptions and a touchdown. A.J. Brown had 10 receptions and a touchdown, but A.J. Brown had 137 yards to Tyreek's 88. If you can't get Tyreek rolling, if we can't get Mostert rolling, it's just going to be hard to beat this Super Bowl caliber Philadelphia Eagles team. They have times of looking inconsistent this year too. The Jets kind of showed those little idiosyncrasies where sometimes the Eagles are going to lack. They looked past the Jets, I think, to try to get to this game, and this had to be a revenge tour for Philadelphia. If you watch the McAfee show, he had a clip of the head coach of Philadelphia running through the hallway after the game, talking a bunch of trash. I dig it. I dig that man has a personality and that he's firing up his team, and they're going to need that going forward for sure. Eagles did hold off a pretty decent-looking Miami Dolphins team, 31-17. And then let's move to this barn burner. This ridiculous, oh man, didn't see this coming at all. I do lose this one, but Vikings beat the Niners in Monday Night Football 22-17. Man, not how I saw that going at all. I thought Purdy was going to be on his revenge tour after looking like an actual normal human being last week. I thought he'd go right back to I never lose games Brock, And that did not happen. Mr. Irrelevant looked pretty irrelevant this week. He went 21 for 30 with a touchdown and 2 interceptions, 272 passing yards. But Kirk Cousins showed up to show out, and he went 35 for 45, 378 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Madison, number 3, their draft pick, their rookie wide receiver, he gets that ball yanked out of his hand early and lets Kirk Cousins down, and then he goes on to have 2 touchdowns later in the game. One, yanking that ball out of Ward's hands and taking it to the house. Kid's on fire, and he has to be as long as Justin Jefferson is on the sidelines. This Minnesota Vikings team looked different than we've seen most of this year so far. Again, as a division rival, I haven't seen very much out of this team yet that's impressed me, at least the way that it had in previous years. There's been years where the Packers will open the season with the Vikings, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be disgusting. I can feel it, and this year has not felt like that until right now. This is a team that just beat a pretty dominant 49ers defense. Brock Purdy still looked human and not superhuman like normal. C-Mac got his touchdown. I'm pretty sure this is his 16th consecutive game with a touchdown. So great for him. But McCaffrey also was their leading receiver. Without Debo, they're always going to be in the weeds. I have Kittle on my fantasy team, and for God's sake, please, Brock, throw the ball to Kittle every now and then. That'd be awesome. This was a tight ends weekend, and it did not feel that way coming out of this. Hawkinson also got a little banged up for the Vikings, but altogether, 22-17 Vikings over the 49ers. That brings my total record for this week to 6-7. I'm going to find a dry erase marker, and I have a dry erase board right here above the camera. I will be putting that on there, and we will see if we can build off of it going into next week. I will probably be doing a Thursday morning prediction video as we get into week 8. Try to stagger them a little bit and get ready for the following week of football. This is going to be a busy weekend for me as well with Halloween events. My birthday is this upcoming weekend. All this stuff. I got a couple parties, couple events that I'm doing. But Thursday, we're going to be right back here for predictions for week 8. This was the very first Tuesday where we talk about our takeaways from this week. We're gonna call Tuesdays Takeaway Tuesdays for sure. So this was the first Takeaway Tuesday coming off of week 7. We're looking to roll into week 8. I have a losing record right now, 6-7. I can't have that. That can't be a thing. We got to get this thing better next week. Thank you guys for tuning in for our very first Takeaway Tuesday. Remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe for all of the fun Intraverse Uncharted content. And remember to do more than simply exist. And come with me into the Uncharted.